Hello and welcome to my channel on human design. Well, I was looking at about 8 different questions to talk about today, and I ended up just zeroing in on 2 of them. I try to do more because I know that, I want to connect with you and answer as many as I can. But in this particular case, I think it's time to zero in a little bit because it's an important question. And the question is on what is knowing? What can we know? And what are we as beings? So there are 2 questions. The first one is from Laura Lee. This is her question. I love human design, but I've got many thoughts and questions on human design within the whole. Because the way I feel it, we are all infinite awareness, pure consciousness, having a human experience in this dense earth realm. Does HD only see on this experience, I wonder? I think so. My spirit or oversoul or consciousness remembers things that go beyond the possibilities human design describes, I guess. Well, Laura Lee, thank you for that question. And what is human design? Human design is a science. It is the mechanics of the Maya. And in that sense, it does describe the framework that we live in, the framework of our own form, the framework of other living beings. It describes it very well. It not only describes that, it goes into the dream rave, it goes into what happens when we're asleep, it goes into the reincarnation, that we come back again and again. It speaks of many things. It even speaks about the future and the nature of consciousness as it evolves in times to come. So it does describe things pretty well. But it does something else. It says that the possibilities of this life depend upon you. They depend upon your decisions. The recognition that we are all a unique pattern, I think, is one of the most profound things I've ever heard. We are all unique. And we are filtering the neutrino fields through our form. So we get to experience things in a very unique way to anybody else. And to me, that is the beauty of it all. Now, the possibilities of that experience will depend upon the form, but also the nature of this Maya, the mechanics of the Maya. Human design is about being here in this realm, in this form, at this time. Beyond the Maya, there is nothing much that can be said, because in the evolution of consciousness, there are forms we inhabit, the experience of which is beyond our imagination. It truly is beyond our imagination. But that's another story for another time. My point is, if you think about water, now water is something that always kind of flows to the sea. It goes down. It doesn't care what receptacle you put it in. It will shape itself to whatever that is. It moves according to where it is and the momentum behind it. But it doesn't just go low, it can also go high in a different form. It can be steam and can rise, it can fall in rain. It has many, many different forms. Now, if you were water, you would experience life in many different ways because of the different forms that you would be in. And in a way, we are mainly water, are we not? So yeah, there are ways of experiencing life in multiple ways as a human being within the design that you have. And because it's a science, it's verifiable and repeatable. And I find that very comforting. But if you want it to include all the different spiritual philosophies and ideas out there, well, if you meet them, great. If you experience them, great. If you don't, they're just hearsay. And who knows why they were written or how they were written or what the agenda was behind some of those ideas. They're ideas. Are they real to you? You can imagine things, especially in the abstract. You can imagine all kinds of possibilities, beyond human design. Really? Human design is you living your life. And when it comes down to it, it's you living your life. And you can live it as an idea, or you can live it embodied in form, accepting that we are a pattern, a fixed pattern within all the different possibilities of the patterns. And that, to me, is the most remarkable thing. As Sue Ann Dayton said in a recent comment when I was talking about psychic abilities, and I was talking about being connected, and she says, well, since my near-death experience, I know we're all connected. And Maureen Lopez talked about her moving into more of her psychic abilities and bring it into her yoga practice, and how right that feels. Her form has opened up into other awarenesses through her form. And she said the only block to psychic abilities is confidence. I like that. I like that. One does need a certain mindset in order to think about these things. A certain confidence, a certain testing of the limits, a certain seeing of where they can go and what you can pick up, I think is absolutely the way to go if you are in that movement in your life. And there will be different times when we all are, different times of loss, or if we're caught in an accident, or there's something major happening around us at some sort of public event. All kinds of ways that we can suddenly click into something more than what we used to experience before that. But I also know the limitations of spiritual thought and ideas. And that's not necessarily something that's going to fit with you or with me. It's all through its own different colored glass that people see things. And the wonderful thing about human design is it is for us to experiment in our own form. Now, if we take this to the next questioner, and we'll look at some of those possibilities through the knowing circuit. This is from Emmy. My questions are about individuality in human design. There's a saying that individuals just know things. I know. But how many gates or channels do you actually need to have to be what is considered an individual in human design, and to access this so-called intuitive knowing? Is there something to use as a guideline? Does the integration and centering circuits have access to knowingness in the same way as the rest of the individual circuit? I'm a little confused about this because, like I said earlier, I know, but how? And can I really? Isn't that kind of the point? Haha. Also, there's not so much clear in-depth information about integration and centering circuits, or I haven't come across it. Could you open these up a bit and how they differ from the rest of the individual circuit? Okay, Emmy, thank you for that question. So the centering circuit includes the 3410 and the 5125. It is really about centering in on oneself. And yes, it is individual. And of course, the channel of initiation, the 5125, has its mystical qualities as a mystical channel. The integration circuit is really about survival in the now. So yes, it has its knowing. It has its knowing in the 57 as an example. The awareness of what's around you in the physical environment in the moment. It's all about the now. What's the same for them is that they're both about the now, like all individuality. But integration is primarily about surviving in the now, whereas centering and the initiation channel isn't so much about surviving as keeping centered in on yourself through whatever it is that you meet. So what is this knowing? You talk about the knowing circuit. tapping into this intuitive knowing. Well, that's just one side of it. The individual circuitry goes through every single center. There is emotional knowing, a deep, deep knowing. There is intellectual knowing. I know, the certainty of the ajna. So when it comes to the ajna, when it comes to our conceptual mind, there is a limit. There is a certainty in the 4323. I know, but do they really know? They are not always right. Being certain that you know does not necessarily translate into being right. You must understand this. Ra himself told me that. Yeah, you know, you don't want to trust their knowing all the time. And I've asked 4323s, different versions of them as I've gone along, you know, about the knowing. And they go, well, you know, I'm usually right, but not always. You know, I will admit that I'm not always right. They're the honest ones. They're the ones that go, yeah, you know, there's something I really thought I knew, and then the evidence came back that it was not correct. So the conceptual knowing is this ability to structure thought in a way that is new, that often undermines the way other people think. And it can contain within it great truth. There's no doubt about it. You know, all kinds of wonderful things can come through that gate of insight and be described in ways that have never been described before. So to answer your question directly for you, since you did give me the birth data of your chart, you have the 61st gate. So this is kind of an antennae to mystical knowing that you're thinking about. You know, what is the extent of the knowing? Where does it come from? Suddenly I know what I didn't know before. Where does it come from? The 360 in your channel is only partially conscious in the 60th gate. And it is basically the knowing in the response. It is about you responding in the moment. You know, there's a chaos that's within that channel. I should know, I have it. You know, where it is unstable as it moves into a new order. The impulse to do something in a different way, or to move towards the new. Now, would you call that a knowing? I would certainly call it individual. You have half the centering circuit in the 3410, you know, locked into your own behavior, this movement into try to find what is really meaningful for you, what is really worthwhile for you. Basically, the energy to find what it is that you love to do. The 57 is unconscious in you. It will automatically, intuitively know what is going on around you, if it's good or if it's threatening to you. It can pick up on the intonation in the way that people speak. You can even know things before they say them and what they really mean, even if they try to hide it from you. You have knowing when and how to fight in the 38, when you want to be on track for purpose that comes along. The 14 is there in you, this incredible power gate that can really help people into their own life. The primary knowing for the 14 is to be in alignment with their correct direction in this life. So we can talk about it in that way. We can talk about, you know, yes, there's a very strong individual side to you. In fact, it's mainly that. And just one tribal channel, this ambition to move on up in the world in one way or another. But that's not individual. That's a drive for transformation. So yes, you are, in human design terms, strongly individual. But what is it that you're here to know about? I mean, you have a completely open throat center. You know, these potential wisdoms in our openness, that is where we go to school. That is what we're here to find out about. You're here to find out about different forms of communication, different forms of the way that people share with one another, different forms of manifestation, different forms of expression. Your knowing will be applied to that. in one way or another. And the limitation is you have no particular context yourself, which is also going to teach you a lot about context. Conditioning can be incredibly limiting if you are held by it, and you don't go beyond it. Then the life is limited. Then you don't get to live your own life. But if you are living your own life, it is the conditioning and the open centers that are the food upon which you can live out your uniqueness through the wisdom of being yourself as you're encountering it and finding out what it's really all about for you. You have an open head in ajna. So you're here to know, as I do, that ideas come and go, which is why I can't hold to any one philosophy. But primarily, my point in this video and my point in speaking to you now and to Laura Lee before you is the fact that we are the experiment. We are incarnated in this form at this time in the pattern that we are. If you can accept that, you can then transcend the pattern. You don't label yourself as this. When people first come into human design, it's all about the numbers and the labels and who am I and what am I and all the rest of it. But after a while, it's not about that. It's about your own experience as you. Rather than running around trying to find out things about who you could be, you can drop all that now. You can just relax and go, well, I am the experiment. My life is the experiment. Let's see where it goes. In your case, what are you going to respond to? Where does it take you? It'll take you in many different directions because there's no one direction set in your chart. That doesn't matter. You just get a different variety of movement in this life. It's not about locking into one thing and go, okay, I want to be on my direction in this way. You don't know what way that is. You don't. The direction comes to you, and it's about being able to accept that as an individual, to add your knowing to whatever it is that you experience and to the lives of the people that you share your life with through your individuality, through your quirkiness, through your knowing that you can't really fit in anywhere for long and all the other things that come, and through the deep knowing that can come through the 22nd gate in you at an emotional level. What is it to be really attentive to something worth listening to? What is it to pick up in the subtleties in the music that you hear? What is it to really feel open? What is it to be part of the opening process? So many things. So it's not about the labels. It's not about, am I more individual than anything else? You are you, both the openness and the fixedness. What is fixed is consistent. What is open is an ongoing learning. And that's what it's about. And you'll do it in your own way, and you'll know what you know as you go through it. You're not here to believe other people. None of us are. We're here to experience life in our own way. And because there is an evolutionary movement taking place, there is also a lot of change happening within people, especially at this time of global cycle change. Individuals are here to have their own particular take on the experience of life. And for those that want to hear about it or witness it, they will be your friends. They will be the people that you hang out with, that will enjoy your quirkiness, that will enjoy your wisdom. And you add that to the totality of consciousness. We also serve by being incarnated. And it's not just about serving ourselves, it's about serving something higher. That is the totality. That is the larger consciousness of which we are all a part. And each knower will know some of that. But we're limited beings. We are a pattern. I think that's really what I want to get across today. We are a pattern, and our experience of life is limited by that pattern, but it's also expanding through that pattern. It's not that we are less than being a single pattern within multiple patterns. We are unique. And in that sense, we are all special. The challenge, the biggest challenge, and the challenge that human design confronts directly is the conditioning that will stop us living our unique pattern. That's the big challenge. Where we go in the living of it, nobody knows. And that's the joy of it. And that's the adventure of it. So thank you for those questioners, and I hope you've enjoyed this. And if you have, please like, share, and subscribe. And I'll be back again with something completely different very soon. Bye for now.